So I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. Hello and welcome to FASA's virtual networking event where we get to exchange information, make new contacts and widen our circles. I'm Romany Thresher and I'm your host today. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that these sessions are recorded and they may be used for marketing purpose, shared on social media, shared on FASA's website. It's all about getting you added visibility. We will soon start with the introductions where everybody will have an opportunity to introduce yourself. If you don't wish to participate, please send me a direct message so I know not to announce your name. The key icebreaker question today is about load shedding, how you've experienced load shedding and how it's impacting your life. Our guest today is Vishay Rabipal, who is the head of renewable energy at ABSA Group. And the discussion today is about solar power and understanding the financial considerations for your business and your household when investing. The discussions will end with questions and answers, so please wait for the speaker to finish speaking and then ask your questions. We will also ask for some golden nuggets from you, what you've learned from today, and then we're going to ask you to also complete a short survey just to let us know how we're doing, as well as what topics you would like us to share in the future. And then at the end of the day, if anyone wishes to stay behind to network further for breakout rooms, you are more than welcome to do so. I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today, especially those who attend regularly, as well as people in my network. I have to admit that sometimes it's stressful organizing events like these, which often has me wondering, is it worth my while? And then after every time I do an event, I must admit it's worth hosting these events because of the people we connect with and the information that's shared during these sessions by guest speakers as well as attendees. The reason for hosting these events is really to give you an opportunity and a platform to be able to promote yourself, but also to get up to speed with what is going on, what are people thinking, what are people up to, and trends that are taking place out there, because these are all important considerations and factors that factors in when it comes to lead generation, as well as lead generation and for growing your businesses further. So on Monday, when we hardly had any registrations and I was feeling a little bit stressed and wondering how I was going to do this, I decided that, you know, I've done all I could. I've done followed the processes, put it out there, and all I could do was trust and believe and trust for the best outcome possible. And that's something that, especially when you want to understand the law of attraction and how things work, it's about trusting the process and believing that everything will work out as it should. And while meditating, I was reminded again that it's not about, when it comes to lead generation, it's not always about quantity, but about the quality. You see, I know most of the people who agreed to attend here today are all serious about growing their businesses and interested in finding alternative energy solutions, interested in finding how they can change their lives and possibly go off grid. I also know that many people in this room today are people connectors and information distributors. And these are people who go out there, they go out there and they share with friends, share with associates, share with colleagues, because especially when it's something pertaining for now, for example, with solar energy. So it really is up to Vishay to convert those leads into word of mouth referrals and possible sales, whether it be today or in the future. The biggest benefit about networking really is about word of mouth. And so while we're not, you know, these events may not be big to give everybody time to share, they are about quality. For example, I know Dr. James Adele speaking at workshops, also networking and getting to know him. Big people connector, information sharer, and a networker. And from conversations we've had, I know how he feels about the environment. I know how he feels about solar energy, being able to go off grid, and I know that he is shopping for this. So if the numbers work, he could become a client today. Not only that, I also know because of James's network and the people that he mixes with, that he would share this information if it is valuable. Another person is Mariana Price, who is here this morning. She loves connecting people with solutions. She works from Africa. She works right across Africa. They're running the Shine Africa campaign, big in food security, big in ventures along those lines. So I know that especially for the farming community, the agricultural agricultural sector. They are constantly looking for solutions to go off grid or to change energy solutions with the rising costs. Then there's Robin van Rensburg as well, who's a franchise consultant, and I've come to know during these networking events. And I know that information that's shared here today, Robin would take back to his clients, whether they're past, present, or future, and see how they can use renewable energy within their businesses to come together. Then Asanda, I know, is either running late because she sent me a message. I know that from, getting to know Sanda, who also attends regularly, I have to wonder how solar could work for her chicken bar franchises, and how, especially when it comes to funding and adding value when it comes to selling franchise companies. So it really is all about relationships and how we get to know people and connect with people. I know for many of you, the goal is to generate leads when attending these events, but also think about when attending these events, give it a mindset of how can you benefit your clients with information that is shared, that you can go away and see how can you position yourself to offer more value to your clients and position yourself to generate leads. Lead generation is not about the numbers, but really what you can get out of something. It's about the quality and the relationships that you develop with people. And, these events are primarily for networking. So now, you can't really always have a large group of people attending, especially when you want everybody to share and give an opportunity to share. So what I'd like to do today now is open up the discussions to introductions, where everybody will have an opportunity to announce their name and surname, where you're located, let us know the company that you work for, what is it that you offer, and then when it comes to load shedding and rising costs, how has it impacted you? Have you been looking for solutions? Let us know. So I'm going to just start off with our CEO, Freddie Makato, who will take over the floor. And let me know if you do not want to. Also, just another reminder, if you do not want to introduce yourself, please send me a message in the message box so that I am aware of this. And also, if you wish to connect with someone directly, please share information with them directly, because we cannot go and share people's information out there. Everybody has about 45 seconds to 1 minute to share and introduce themselves. So over to Fred.
Hi, Roman. I hope you will hear me because my system is still buffering. My name is Fred Makato. I'm the CEO of the Franchise Association of South Africa. And we created our focus areas for this year. And as you might all be aware, that lockdown regulations and COVID-19 measures have been dealt away with. We are also in the process of organizing events like this one, the webinars, the seminars, a summit, a conference, and a fun golf day. So this year, I think that we'll start to go back to those activities. But we are also on the journey of continuing to meet with our members, because we have reviewed our value proposition to them. So it is very interesting times for the association. I think we can only build from here. Thank you for joining the session, and hope that you'll get the necessary information that you require to propel your businesses going forward. Take into account the electricity backlog issue that you're having in the country and in all other facets of the business, as you are aware now about fuel shortages and increases. So we just hope that from the session, you'll be able to use the information to grow your businesses. Thank you.
Need to remember to unmute.
Back to you, Romani.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to hand over to Donnie du Toit. Unmute yourself.
There you go. Sorry about that. My name is Donnie. I represent a company by the name of FASA Africa. We are a turnkey signage manufacturing and installation company. Just 1 second. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. Right. So we are situated in Johannesburg, in in Lanseria Business Park. We also represented in Durban, Cape Town, Zimbabwe, and Korea. As I say, we provide a turnkey signage manufacturing and installation solution.
I just got into a virtual thing.
We provide custom structural signage to the construction industry, the architectural, corporate clients, and the retail sector in South Africa, mainly focusing in Gauteng. One of the items on your list is the best way to reach me. You guys can always give me a phone call or on my email address. And in terms of the energy crisis and the whole load shedding thing, we have also been disrupted by that insofar as we've experienced very costly disruptions on the manufacturing side of things. So whatever you're building, you're trying to produce something out there, the challenge is that you get these sudden cuts and you can't produce for X amount of hours. So that has a cost impact. Another thing that's also touched us is the travel issues. You know, if you experience load shedding, then you battle to travel, and it takes a long time to get from point A to point B. That has an impact on your business. We try to mediate for that as far as possible in terms of planning as well as possible ahead, and we also liaise with our clients to try and assist where they would find issues. That's about what I have to say.
Okay, let's hand over to Ezekiel.
Hi, everybody. Very good morning. Yes, this is Ezekiel here, and I'm from Singapore. And well, I get to know this networking through Freddie. I had a communication with him yesterday. The business we're doing is I have a company called Bees Africa Event Company. And this business we are doing, right? So we want to bring Singapore businesses over to South Africa. Okay, and there's an upcoming event that we'll be doing, and that which is the food fair, which we are doing it in the month of November this year. So well, we hope to have a support. And another business that we are doing is that we're into the food business. So we have intention to set up the food court in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So at this moment, we are looking for potential business partner, strategy partners, or even investors, or even franchisee, right, who are keen to operate a food court. And this is where we bring the Singapore local food over to South Africa, as well as some Asian food itself. Yeah, and energy, I think in Singapore, our energy supply, our electricity supply has always been very consistent, you know, so we don't face such a problems that what you guys are facing right now. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Did you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right.
Nicolene.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicolene Algedat and I'm in Cape Town in South Africa. I have Espresso Cafe, we're a coffee shop and we have 31 stores across South Africa. I currently actually help small business owners franchise their brands bigger. So if they have around 5 or 10 stores, I help them grow to 50 or more, as we're expanding this year with another 25 as well. The load shedding specifically affects us when we obviously can't make coffee when there's no power. However, we do look at prepping the store before so that we can still have stuff ready by the time that load shedding also happens. Because we are inside shopping centers, it's very difficult for us to kind of come up with generators or backup plans. But we do use certain UPS units to just kind of help us along with smaller stuff. However, at our offices and at our hubs and our roasteries, we use solar panels. So we've completely moved over to that section a couple of years ago already. Thank you, Romery.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm just trying to check where our guest speaker is. Maybe he's having problems connecting. All right, Lawrence Miller.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lawrence. I run a company called ABBA Design, but I'm actually here as a guest of Robin van Rensburg, who I work very, very closely with. And this topic is actually a very, very dear to the heart thing, because I started with sustainable design in the 70s, 1978, 79, somewhere around there. So I do a lot of restaurants, and I do a lot of assist with franchise, setting up franchises in restaurant business and others. And I find when it comes to restaurants, it's very difficult to actually go the solar or sustainable route. And the reasons are simple. We've tried doing induction stoves and all those, and they don't work as well as what a gas stove would do. We do gas primarily to get rid of the electricity component, but you still need, for any small business, anything from 80, three-phase 80 volts, 80 amps up to 125 if you've got cold rooms and so forth, especially extracting fans and those, they eat a lot of power. And there's just actually no product on the market that actually assists us with getting these things in check. If you look at, I did a shop recently, which was in Paro, and the extraction was an absolute nightmare, because you are, especially if you've got fire products that you're doing, if you're doing over the coal kind of products, grilling and frying on open flame, pizza ovens as well, you've got to have a dual setup for your extraction. So you've got to run 2 extraction systems, and each extraction system is going to be tied in with the landlord's setup at some point. So those things are not conducive. The gas is one way of mitigating, getting rid of electricity, but there's only so many products that you can run off gas. A microwave oven won't run off gas. Fryers, yes, you can. Grillers, yes, you can. Cold rooms, they eat a lot of power. Extraction fans, a lot of power. Point of sale, you know, those you can run off sort of battery backup setup. But in general, you're going to be suffering with keeping your power up. I've done very many courses over the years, and I've recently done the Edge course for sustainable design. I follow the guys in Brazil. They seem to be well ahead of the curve when it comes to sustainable design and sustainable products. So hopefully a manufacturer out there will hear this and say, hang on a minute, you know, we need something that it's going to be a little bit more conducive to getting restaurants up and running. Thank you very much, Romri.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for that. James Adal.
Are you stressed, depressed? Have you lost your mojo? Are you looking for natural solutions for your healthcare problems? I'm Dr. James Adel from Lifestyle Clinic. You can consult with me in Cape Town. You can consult with me on Zoom. And we also offer retreats in Philippolis to assist you with transformation. You can be the best version of yourself. You owe it to yourself. Dr. James Adel, Lifestyle Clinic. Thank you.
Thank you. Angus Khan or Ennis Jones?
Hi, this is Angus Khan. I work for PG Glass. I'm the National Franchise Operations Manager. So we've got about 80 franchises nationally. I've also got a business partner where we actually deal in solar energy, and we are looking at expanding some kind of solution into for informal settlements. So this is the reason why this topic has actually sparked my interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's me. Hope you can hear me. I'm Ennis Jones, Chief Operating Officer of Obami, an online learning platform. I'm rather selfishly here to hear about solar. I'm building a house and would like to be sort of grid tied or off grid. So I'm kind of keen to hear from the professionals. Obami as a company, we offer solutions for all walks of life, from cradle to career, dealing with early childhood development learning, all through to sort of facilitating training and learning through franchises, working across townships all the way to the top tier, those who have. I'm looking forward to hearing from the professionals.
James Noble or Asanda Makabuka? Whoever comes up first.
Let me go there. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, James Noble from ABSA Bank. I'm the head of the wholesale retail franchise team. This is actually my 25th year in franchising. I've got a very long relationship with the Franchise Association of South Africa, currently a board member of FASA as well. And yeah, I think what is on my mind currently is, and we are talking about the topic today, but also I think energy in general. I think we've seen the fuel price increases happening this week. Luckily, there was some sort of a buffer from the government reducing some of the levies for two-month period. But in the end, we've been seeing a lot of serious fuel price increases, petrol and diesel, and the impact that that will have on the whole value chain and on the economy of South Africa and inflation in general, and eventually rolling over to the small businesses in South Africa that I have a big passion for. So I think Vishay, my colleague that will be presenting today from renewable energy, he will definitely and hopefully give us a lot of tips on how we can help ourselves out of this, let's call it crunch that we're in, especially from an electricity perspective. I think we think about electricity, but I think we also need to think about water supply. I think that's the next one that comes to mind when talking about well, water and electricity, and that will impact businesses and households in the long run. But yeah, I think I'm going to stop there. I think, Romani, you've also done some of the advertising on behalf of me. So, yeah, but glad to be here. Thank you for this event.
Excellent. Thank you for that, James. Yes, that's been a concern for me as water and electricity supply, I must say. When it comes to load shedding, I have considered generators, but you're reliant on diesel. I've looked at batteries, but batteries are like you have to replace them. Then I looked at solar, and it's so expensive. So when James mentioned something about costs and how you can mitigate, I'm like, all ears. So I'm really hoping Vishay will be able to shed some light on that. I'm going to hand over to Carl Rutman quickly. Asanda says she's having issues with the bandwidth. She says hello everybody from the Chicken Bar. So if Carl Rutman would like to go, followed by Tashrik Miller.
Hi everyone, my name is Carl Rutman. I work for Complete Specialized Retail Solutions. We short for CSRSZA. In South Africa, we are an occupational health and safety company, and we are in the following industries: the motor industry, retail industry, food and hospitality, fuel industry, as well as construction and mining. We are located in Cape Town in Bellville, and yeah, load shedding has affected us as our trainers. They can't go out to training when there's load shedding because their PowerPoints and everything cannot display. So we've made use of UPSs, etc. But at the end of the day, that can't really help us. So I'm looking forward to hearing of solutions to help us to keep going when load shedding goes. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I've got to multitask, unmuting myself, muting, and all sorts of things. So Carl, you had a go. Tashrik Miller, you're up next, followed by Maria D'Amico.
Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm Tashrik. I actually work for a law firm in Cape Town called Fairbriges Wortham Baker Attorneys. I'm quite excited to join you all today and take part in this discussion because, renewable energy, climate change, and specifically looking at alternative ways of, providing energy and things like that is actually one of my passions. And in addition to that, Fairbriges as a firm who also deal a lot with franchises and businesses, I also work in the commercial law department. So in addition to me being here for kind of my selfish personal gains, kind of along the lines of NS as well, I'm also looking to build a house and go off grid. I'm also here to kind of understand, the trials and tribulations that businesses face and franchises face with load shedding, and how we can mitigate that from a, I should say, policy or fiscal legal perspective. So on that note, I'm excited to be here, looking forward to the discussion, and I hope to get to know all of you a little bit better as the day goes on.
Thank you. Over to Maria.
Hi, everyone. I trust you can hear me now. Romani, can you hear me?
We can. We can hear
Excellent. I'm Maria D'Amico. I am an attorney. I sit on the board of FASA. I'm also the chair-elect. I specialize in franchising law and also do commercial contracts and litigation. I'm particularly interested today, not so much as an entrepreneur or as a law practice, but as an individual on how can I make myself off the grid and just learn. Whatever tips we can get that, number one, reduces the electricity and also the costs, ultimately, I'm interested in. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maria. And let's have a hand over to Dimakatso. Dimakatso.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Dimakatso. I'm here to learn as much as I can, and especially with this solar that you just introduced to us today. I recently finished doing my course in coaching. That is my interest in also in a long run. And I'm happy to see all of you, and I'm here also to learn. Thank you.
Robin van Rensburg.
Hi, Robin van Rensburg, Franchise in a Box. We specialize in new startup franchises, and we often get asked questions about energy saving. A lot of the stores and people I work with are basically restaurants, so they often have energy issues. I don't know about everybody else, but here in Durban, we not only have problems with Eskom, but also our infrastructure seems to be falling apart. And I'm not sure what is going on, but that seems to be a problem for us here. All right, thanks.
Mariana Price.
Good day, everyone. I'm Mariana Price. I'm from Kulini in the Northwest Province, but I work mostly online globally. My company is called Grow for Health. I've got on a farmer hub where we do training, advice, and growing and sales and networking. I'm also the convener for China Africa campaign, and I work very big with moringa across the globe. But we're growing moringa trees for China Africa campaign for 56 countries and the islands for the awareness of peace education. And then I'm very big in food security because moringa is part of food security. We're teaching and advising and encouraging through the network. And always just remember, I need to say one thing. Moringa fixes human soils and water. I heard him saying about the water must be fixed. Yes, I know water is not always available, but we help with cleaning water. And I'm on the networking with Romani through virtualnetworking.today, so you can get me there. And the main thing is also carbon sequestration, where moringa assists with, and for offsets, carbon offsets. So if you need anything to know more about how to offset your carbon, then you can contact me and may connect with me. And electricity is a big problem in Africa, all over the world actually, but Africa is big. South Africa, I work with the food security, and the people have problems. We need to come up with the solutions. And for me on the farm, it's a very, very big problem, and we're always trying to come up with a solution. So I'm a solution solver. So I'm very interested in listening today because I can pass the information on to many, many people. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. And then I'm just going to hand over to Julie Osso, and then Carl Schultz and Travis.
Hi, Romani. Maybe before you hand over to Julie, can you log me out, then I can rejoin because I'm still buffering.
Okay, I don't think I can change that. You have to log yourself out.
I can't do anything from my side.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll see what I can do. If I log you out, you won't be able to come back in. That normally is what's happened. That's why I don't want to do that. So.
Or maybe let me just stay as is.
Stay as is. There we go. So let's
but then please mute me.
Okay, done. All right, so let's hand over to Julie Osser and then to Carl Schultz and Travis Ludlow if you haven't had a chance. Julie, unmute yourself. Okay, unmute yourself when you have a moment.
Okay, I think Freddie has basically said everything on behalf of FASA, and so is Maria, and I think let's rather give opportunities to the delegates that are going to be contributing, which is great. Thank you.
Carl.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Carl Schultz. I'm from World Class Coach, and for us, yes, definitely the electricity is a huge problem. Most of our clients are online, so we do a lot of international work. We also host events. So for me, it's crucial that our power doesn't go off. And we've got backup batteries, but sometimes they're not as reliable as we think, especially with the load shedding where the batteries don't have enough time to charge properly. So UPSs and those kind of things tend to fail from time to time. So I'm really keen to hear what's going on now. Romani, do you want me to talk about the summit now, or will we do that a little bit later?
Yeah. Talk about it now.
Okay. So a division of what we do is World Class Summits, where we host online events. And what we're doing this year is we're hosting the South African National Franchise Summit. It's going to be a 5-day event stretching over 2 months with ongoing webinars and stuff. It'll probably stretch over about 8 months. And we would really like to invite you to partake in the summit, to get involved. There's 2 main focuses for the summit. Number one, it's exposure for franchisors. So there's opportunity for you to get your brand exposed to potential new franchisees or guys wanting to come into the franchise industry. That's the one aspect of focus. The other aspect of focus is to add value to existing franchisors and franchisees. So we're going to be looking at some of the issues and challenges that our industry are facing, especially around 3 areas: financial solutions, and we've partnered with banks and Old Mutual and Momentum and all those kind of guys that will help us in that aspect. Then industry solutions, looking at the industry and challenges we're facing, labor concerns, that kind of stuff. And then growth solutions is the third aspect we're going to be focusing on. And that specifically talks around growing your brand, growing your franchise, growing your business, and also growing your people. So please get hold of me. I'm going to try and post a brochure in the chat box. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but if it does, have a look at that. I'll also post a link to a landing page that I've created specifically for you guys, for franchisors, where you can just find out a little bit more of what we're doing and look at the different options where you can get involved and come on board. Thank you. Romani, back to you.
All right, Travis, did you have a chance? I just can't remember. Everyone's yes, Travis.
I haven't had a chance yet.
Oh, you haven't. I remember now. I see that. Just seeing you.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, my name is Travis Ludlow. I head up sales and marketing at a company called SolarVest. We're based on the north coast of KZN up in Ballito. So we're a solar distribution company. We have about 150 installers on our books. We have our own installation sort of division as well, but we keep those separate. And then we also have a solar academy. We partnered with the Green Solar Academy up in Johannesburg. So we host various different training courses that we've currently got one on at the moment, sort of upskilling people wanting to get into the game. So aside from supplying, distributing, and servicing, we're bringing people in, we're upskilling them, and yeah, we basically just riding this solar boom, this wave that just seems to be never ending, which is a great thing for us, but it's somewhat daunting at times as well. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Travis. Right. So we're going to hand over to Vishay Ravipal, who is our guest speaker today, who's going to help us understand really the cost implications and how it works in our businesses. Vishay, you might have heard that in the beginning, there's a lot of people in this room who are very interested in understanding solar for both business and personal. Me, myself as well. I'm hoping to go off grid from a personal perspective, especially being a virtual entrepreneur. I live in the online world, in the online space. Electricity is vital to my needs. Load shedding doesn't impact me. It's a saving grace. It gives me time off. But yes, I am very aware of those rising costs. So let's over to you. Thank you very much for your time. And let's learn everything we need to know about solar costs and the implications.
Excellent. Thank you, Romney. You know, I would like to be in your position where I could get some time off during load shedding. You know? Unfortunately, on my end of the scale, my telephone just rings off the hook when it's load shedding. So, you know, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all those taking the time to join us today. So by way of introduction, my name is Vishay Ravipal. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, specializing in energy and carbon reduction strategies using low-cost, high-return opportunities and energy management best practices. As my current role, I am the head of renewable energy at APSA, and I'm responsible for the sector's strategy, customer value proposition, and achieving the growth targets aligned to this sector. Amongst my various focus areas that promotes our shaping role in society, renewable energy definitely stands out as a big opportunity for us. As you heard from many of the participants around the table today, you know, having access to energy opens up so many opportunities. And obviously from a country perspective, it's actually a constraint in terms of progressing as well as our GDP. So obviously we don't utilize Zoom that often, so please bear with me because I'm gonna try and get my presentation up on the screen. And Romani, if you could just, you know, confirm if you do see my screen.
We see your screen.
Okay, excellent. And thank you all for joining and welcome. So, excellent. So today my approach is very different from how I normally present. Obviously, I'm gonna take the approach in terms of disseminating some of my knowledge around solar. I will take you through the business case and why it makes sense for us to install solar. I'll get into the funding because I think many of us around the table, you know, access to funding to install these systems is always a key inhibitor. And we'll talk about how we at APSA finances and obviously our leading products aligned to financing these types of projects. And to bring everything together, I would bring a client testimonial in, you know, just to demonstrate how these solutions have helped him on his journey in terms of becoming more sustainable in their operation. And then we can touch on some of the questions that might come through along this session. But please, I just want you to understand it's not a formal one. So please, you know, if you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to just jump in and ask as much as you'd like. Okay. So at APSA, like I said, I'm responsible for the renewable energy sector. And we finance and look into the following focus areas, such as bioenergy, hydro, solar, as well as wind power. However, very dominant in our sector is solar. And for many reasons for that, you know, given the fact that it's a mature technology, it has progressed much along the years. The cost of this technology has reduced quite at a drastic rate as well, which makes it much more affordable according, you know, when you have to look at all the other options, together with the ease of installation. So, you know, I'm not going to get into too much technical in terms of how electricity is generated, but in a summary, you know, solar energy is generated from irradiation, and that basically is the sunlight that we get from the sun, which penetrates the panel. But when you look at a typical installation, it comprises of many components. And electricity generated from a solar panel is in the form of DC electricity, which is not really usable electricity for our households and homes and businesses as such. Hence, we have inverters, which then converts that DC electricity to AC, which is in a usable form that we can utilize. Apart from that is other items that we consider in terms of an installation is what we call a balance of systems. And that's basically the structure to house those panels as well as cabling. But what we're seeing in recent trends is the fact that we are seeing a lot of clients now add in battery energy storage, obviously to become resilient when it comes to load shedding. However, at APSA, we've taken a view that we will not just finance the equipment, but we finance the entire solution. Hence, I had to bring up the point that when you look at a typical installation, there's so many components that makes up the system as such. So just to give you some insight in the sector, and I think this is very important to give us an understanding in terms of the landscape. You know, one of the things is when I've mentioned why solar has been so dominant, and it's because of the structural reforms that we've seen in the country. And if you look at this list, we basically started our journey in 2003, where we had our first renewable energy white paper. And over the years, we've seen much progress in terms of supporting the sector. And one of them being the integrated resource plan. So the integrated resource plan is basically the blueprint of our country's generating and the various sources of energy that we will be generating from. Obviously, if you look at this table that's on the right, you would see that coal is definitely still in the mix. However, there is a plan to decommission. However, as a country, we cannot get rid of coal because of the base load that we need from an electricity point of view, especially when you have to relate to renewable energy technologies such as the sun or wind, which is quite sporadic in nature, as opposed to the sun, where we can only generate solar during daylight or sunlight hours. So in our mix, you would see that coal is still there. There is talks about nuclear, that's part of the energy blueprint to bring that on board. But a very big component will be on renewable energy. But that is basically utility scale projects. And when you have to look at that pink column, that's basically projects that we will be involved in from, you know, a franchisee or franchisor, as well as households and businesses as a whole. That is small scale embedded generation. And you would notice an interesting fact here that come 2023, we will have an installation cap that can be connected onto the grid of 500 megawatts per year. So interesting to note that. And one might say that given the constraints as a country, why is there a cap? And I can tell you it's not a concern for me because of what we see in the sector, given the fact that over the past few years, although we never had the cap, we've never really reached half of that from a small scale embedded generation. Okay. And for those franchisees or franchisors that are in this space in terms of solar energy and installations, you know, in terms of the market cap, and if you had to take the 500 megawatts into consideration and use an average of 10 Rand per watt, you're looking at about a 10 billion Rand opportunity per year if you had to include that the likes of battery storage in there. Okay. So apart from the integrated resource plan, we've also seen some progress in terms of policies, and one of them being the Electricity Regulatory Act. And I mean, in 2020, we've seen that the Act had allowed for an exemption of license for those that did install these systems for under 1 megawatt. However, last year, we've seen the increase of this to 100 megawatts. So what does that mean? It obviously means a progress in this space for renewable energy, but it also means that any projects outside of utility scale, which we would generally associate with, does not require a license. So where we've seen previously the blame game between Eskom and NERSA when it came to approving licenses and the delays around that, we now see the fact that as soon as you install, you can generate from without doing the licensing route. Apart from that is obviously following other regulatory requirements, which I will touch on as well. So it's quite a big one for the industry as a support perspective. And we have seen that this sector has expanded it quite a bit. Other support that we are seeing is support from municipalities who are now jumping on board in terms of having rules and regulations in place to allow these installations. So we work very closely with industry bodies such as the Solar Power PV Association, which is SAPIA, together with SALGA, which is the South African Local Government Association, and a body that's called Sustainable Energy Africa. And we are basically playing a role in terms of an advocacy role for municipalities to adopt these rules and regulations. So as a country, we have close to about 253 municipalities. And this list that you're seeing here is sitting at about 41 that do support solar, but it is a progressive one, meaning that it's a journey that we have to take to ensure that municipalities understand the benefits that these systems will add to their municipality. Apart from the fact that, you know, when there's load shedding, that they also lose revenue as well. So this is basically the list of municipalities that have rules and regulations that need to be abided by when it comes to installing the systems and to ensure that your system is installed legally. Apart from that, Eskom also has their own processes, which they call a connection of use, use of system agreement. And they also have a banking agreement, which allows clients that generate excess electricity to push back into the grid and get credited for that. Apart from that is also there's a NERSA approval for any project that's over 100 kilowatts in size needs to have a NERSA registration license. And the reason that I'm bringing these points up is from a bank, we look at these processes and obviously we advise our clients to ensure that once you've installed your system and followed these processes, you can rest assured that no organization will come and tell you, be it the municipality or Eskom, that your system is illegally installed. And we've seen this. We've seen the case whereby clients had, you know, been penalized for installing systems that did not follow these processes. And obviously we feel that we have a duty of care for our clients to ensure that they are aware of these processes. So I'm going to jump into the drivers of a business case. And I know I've got limited time, but I'm going to try and obviously get through a lot of this content quite quickly. But it's the reasons why you as a business need to consider these specific installations. So one of the drivers is the irradiation that we get in the country. And we have the best of what is known as irradiation. And it's basically the sunlight per square meter per area that is. And if you look at this map, and that basically shows you the amount of sunlight we get in the air in specific parts of the country, especially where the high density areas such as the Northern Cape, Northwest, and the Free State, where we get something close to about 13 to 17% more than anywhere else in our country. But looking at the green area, which would definitely one would question, does it actually make business sense for us to install systems since we have lower irradiation levels in other parts of the country? And I can tell you, yes, we do. It does make business sense, given the fact that when you look at my first slide, where I took you through how solar is generated, such that sunlight penetrates a panel. In these cases, you would see a commonality that all coastal areas has a lower irradiation level. And there's reasons for that because of the humidity that's in the air that acts as a barrier in terms of the penetration of sunlight onto those panels. However, nature has its ways of counteracting. If you had to associate yourself with the Western Cape, where we have longer sunlight hours, which then plays a balancing role. Apart from that is, if you had to associate this map to the life of, and those green areas, to the likes of countries such as Germany or Japan, who are the leaders in terms of renewable energy technology, we still get in those bad areas more sunlight than anywhere else in their country. And it just goes to show why solar energy is such a good source of energy in our country. Apart from that, as I've mentioned, the cost of this technology, and we've seen it drop drastically over the years. Just referencing through the graph that I have there, which is the red line, that is the cost of this technology over the years. And it has, and I mean, if you look at since 1975, when this technology has basically come into light, to currently, I mean, we've seen quite a drastic drop. And we're seeing very similar trends to that of battery technologies. I know some of the colleagues mentioned battery energy storage earlier. but we're seeing very similar trends as well. And a lot of this has been driven by mega factories that have come on board to manufacture these types of equipment, which then created the supply and demand competitive edge out there. And obviously the need to reduce cost of this technology. And then obviously the line that you're seeing that's growing, that has many countries have signed up, to renewable energy technology, which also influences this sector and obviously influences the price of this technology as well. Apart from that, as the country, tariff increases, and I mean, just on average, if you look at this graph, over the last 10 years, we've seen an average of a 10.5% tariff increase year on year. The sad part is that, Eskom always needs higher tariff increases to help bail out our ailing infrastructure and the debt that they do have. And just to take you back last year, which we've seen one of the highest tariff increases, which was close to 15.63%. And that came back on the fact that when we look at the tariff increases that we monitor, you would notice that in 2017 and 2018, we never really had double-digit increases. But there's a process that allows Eskom to claw back those lower tariff increases as cost-reflective tariff increases. And that basically, they won a court case from NERSA to allowing them to claw back 69 billion rand. And they obviously could not put that onto the consumer last year, which was especially as many consumers and many individuals came out of hard lockdown and the pandemic. And you can imagine what dire effects that would have had if they had to claim back all 69 billion rand from the consumer. So they entered into a 3-year multi-determination plan to claw back. And this year, you would have noticed that they've asked for close to 20.5% of the tariff increases, but they were awarded 9.5%. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because they did not get what they requested. And the lower tariff increase will come back to bite us in the years to follow. And I can tell you, next year, we're seeing nothing under a 15% increase as well. So the other driver is load shedding. And I wanted to delve in the fact that why are we seeing load shedding? The integrated resource plan that I've touched on, and I specifically brought that into my presentation because that resource plan is basically modeled on the fact that as a country, we need to have an energy availability factor of 80%. But the scary part is that if you look at this maroon line, maroon bar graph, that's the energy availability factor. And you would notice that, and what we track, we've never been for the last 10 years, more than 66% of that energy available to us, the country. And it's the scary part that you look at, is the red bar, which is the unplanned outages that we have in the country. And we know the reasons for that, given the fact that there's a lack of maintenance that is on our generating units, apart from the fact that we've got an ailing infrastructure. Outside of that, if I had to paint the picture, if you look at 2019, where in December we had the first what is called stage 6 load shedding in our country, and associate that with 2020, which was the year of pandemic, where many business activities were low. We had more load shedding in 2020 than that of 2019, amounting to close to 58 days of load shedding. And if you look at 2021, we've surpassed that number to 78 days of load shedding. And the reason that I'm giving you these numbers is the fact that this trend is increasing year on year. And until we take charge of our own energy requirements, or Eskom brings in more generation capacity, that is our concern for the next 3 to 5 years in terms of increasing load shedding trend. And obviously, we do forecast these and we do communicate this with clients. And we've been spot on in terms of predicting when load shedding is. And if you look at where we are as a country for the next 6 months up until June, you would see that we are in a very vulnerable state, such that if we have any generating units that are down on unplanned outages, we then enter into stage 2. And you can understand from a business point of view what the financial impact would be on use. Okay, so I've said quite a lot. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I thought in terms of bringing everything together, I would share a case study, and a case study from one of our clients in the manufacturing sector, but also has a very big role in terms of, you know, the retail market in terms of their products being out there, is Fairview Wine and Cheese Estate. And in 2016, they ventured into their sustainability development goals and installed their first system. And I can tell you that since our engagements with the clients over the years, last year we've installed another 2 phases for their site, and we are now looking at taking the, this site off grid. But apart from me talking, I thought I'll present and let the client tell you his journey. And I'm not sure in terms of Zoom whether my volume will play on the presentation, but Romani, if you could just confirm. Is my sound being heard?
Yeah, your sound is not on there. You might have to check when you share your presentation, you have to check the sound button.
Okay, just to see. Okay, perfect. I've got it.
So in your green, yeah, you'll share when you go share screen.
Can you hear now?
No.
You'll have to stop sharing and then share again. And as you share, just tick at the bottom left hand, there's 2 little dots. Share video, audio.
Excellent. I've got it.
Perfect.
Thank you. Apologies for that.
No worries.
I'm a third-generation owner of Fairview Wine Estate in Sadepal, about 40 minutes from Cape Town. Fairview is a mixed farming operation. We started off many years ago with my late grandfather as a wine producer, grape grower and wine producer, and then branched out into tourism. About 35 years ago, we got into cheese to enhance the tourist offering at Fairview to give the consumer cheese and wine pairing and a tasting. We continually try and get new people into our brand. And the brand is quite dynamic because I've got 2 aspects to it. I've got cheese and I've got wine, and now we're introducing meat as well. And we're also doing bread and bakery. So the whole holistic package is something that really resonates as far as products are concerned, and consumers also resonate with this field to fork or farm to plate type of concept what we're trying to promote. I've been very fortunate to be blessed with a very good banker, and she's been part of our business for the last 10 years. And she actually introduced me to the suppliers of the solar power and walked the road with me and with the company. Obviously, there were a couple of options. We could have looked at wind turbines, which is still on the back burner. There's still a consideration in the future. The problem with the wind, the sporadic nature of the wind in the area, sun is far more reliable than wind. So then we decided, let's do the low-hanging fruit first and go for solar. Obviously, the operation is a very high energy requirement. The total requirements on the farm is 1 megawatt. It was split roughly 50-50 between cheese and wine. We obviously looked at renewable energy and electricity generation, but at that stage it was very costly. And I hung back a bit and watched what was happening in the market, and I saw the price of these installations going down. And banks like FASA came with very good solutions to finance packages, to finance the installation, which made it more and more attractive. And I think after about 4 years of investigation, we finally decided to put pen to paper and get the installation done. When I started at Fairview, which is now unfortunately 41 years ago, we didn't have much going for us. We were in the backwaters. The soil and the farm as it was then is not very high potential. And I scratched around and thought, what is my biggest asset I have? And in those days, I had 17 people working with me. And I decided the 17 people is my biggest asset. Let me invest in the people. And slowly the 17 grew to the 500-600 people today. And that is through the investment in people and the quality of people South Africa we actually do possess. We got the most amazing human resources in this country. All diamonds just need to be polished and feel part of something that works as a family business. And I think that has been our biggest success. I think one cannot sit back and just watch things deteriorate. You actually have to get going and try and make a difference and change the way people think and change people's lives around you. And one way of doing that for sure is taking charge of your own energy requirements. I hope this is the first step of us becoming, most probably in the next 10 years, completely independent. I would like to see that happening. Be very bullish. If we weren't bullish, you will never be a farmer. I can promise you that. Be very optimistic and stay optimistic. I think it's imperative that farmers in general are very resourceful in South Africa. I think South Africa is blessed with some of the most resourceful farmers in the world, okay? And I do believe they must jump on this opportunity to become energy sufficient and try and do as much of this as possible and as far as we can get further and further from the grid and be self-reliant in the future.
I hope you enjoyed that. So given the fact that, you know, we always talk about load shedding and tariff increases, but having renewable energy solutions on your site makes you resilient to those, but it also had so much other benefits. I mean, if you look at from where they started off with close to 17 employees to now where they are in terms of close to 500 to 600 employees. And they've also opened up a facility from a wine tasting perspective where there's a restaurant on site as well. So how do we as FASA promote and create an enabling environment when it comes to these systems? So a lot of what we do is not just on the financing side, because we know we're very good at that, but it's, you know, in terms of providing thought leadership to our clients. And like I've mentioned in my introduction, I'm an engineer by profession. So we help our clients from an advisory and technical knowledge perspective in terms of promoting these types of installations for their business. And we take a holistic view on their business in terms of what would be the best solution for them. Apart from that is, we've also heard in the conversation today that some individuals were looking at installing these systems at their home. So we do have options in terms of financing you. If you have an FASA bond, we have an option which we call a re-advance. So for instance, just to give you some background, what is a re-advance? So let's say you've got a property finance with us or your bond with FASA, and you've got a 20-year bond which you've paid in close to 5 years. So the equity that's sitting in that bond can be utilized for financing this project. Alternatively, if you do not have enough equity in your bond, we can offer you a further advanced solution, which is, given the fact that 5 years ago, your property was valued at R1 million, and in today's day and age with property value increasing, which could be close to about 1.3 million, we can then finance you with that gap of 300,000 Rand for the installation. But we can unpack it in much more detail, and I'm happy to share information on how these various options work. But the next one that I'm going to talk to you about is how does businesses finance these systems. And we have a product which we call the Green Asset Finance. So the Green Asset Finance is a market leading product, given the fact that we can finance anything between 5 to 10 years. And I'll talk about the 10 years just now. But over the 5 to 7 years, the go-to product is Green Asset Finance. We can finance up to 100%, meaning that there's no deposit required. And the beauty part about our product is that we view the assets very differently from normal commercial assets, whereby this asset is viewed as a cash flow generating asset. And by saying that, we do not ask for any security when we finance these, because basically our security comes from the comfort that these systems are cash flow generating. And by saying that, is we take the following necessary steps to ensure that our client gets the solution that works for them. So from a technical advisory perspective, is we will ask our clients to provide us with their proposal that they are considering, and we do the following. We simulate that installation, and we compare that to the client's consumption to see whether it meets the client's requirements. And because we are the leaders in financing these projects, we have benchmarks aligned to the various types of installations, be it a grid-tied, off-grid, or hybrid installation. And if it's not within our benchmarks, then there's red flags raised so that we can advise or understand why those costs are higher than our benchmarks. Because, I mean, obviously, as a duty of care for our clients to ensure that they get the best value for their money. And if it's not within those benchmarks, obviously, we need to delve in deeper to understand why. And there could be reasons for that, such that clients install systems on carports and include their carport structures into the cost of the system. Some clients put up private networks, and obviously, you know, those come with the additional costs as well. Apart from that is we look at the equipment, because this is a long-term investment for many of our clients, such that these systems can generate in excess of 20 years of electricity. So we ensure that the products that they've installed or the equipment that they installed meets our requirements, as well as then doing a complete due diligence on the installer. And you can understand that this sector has progressed over the years, and there's almost every second individual you speak to wants to venture into this space. But we have obviously a responsibility to ensure that the installers that our clients utilize are reputable, they have the necessary years of experience, as well as references to go along with those. And then lastly, like we've mentioned to you earlier, the regulatory requirements that need to be abided by. And that's basically how we can finance. And that's my presentation for today. And thank you all for the time. And I'm not sure if there's any questions that we have on this platform that I can address. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions for Vishay? One of the things, I mean, quite costly. So when we're looking at electricity costs versus and paying back into the grid, I've heard that if you use enough electricity that pays back into the grid. Do you know anything about that or how it works?
Correct. So it's dependent on those municipalities that I've shared earlier in my slide, where those municipalities have SSEG rules and regulations, and they also have NERSA-approved tariffs aligned to that, where they can compensate you for any excess that is pushed back into the grid. For instance, if you look at the Western Cape, they do have a feed-in tariff together with eThekwini, and I think that rate is around 68 cents, and it varies from municipality to municipality. Apart from that is if clients are fed from Eskom, Eskom has what is called a banking agreement, and they credit you a one-for-one basis for any excess that's generated. But the one-for-one, meaning based on the time of use. As you know, there's specific electricity tariffs, and that electricity tariff is either peak, off-peak, or standard periods that you get charged various rates. And Eskom will give you that one-for-one rate based on when you are pushing back that electricity. Unfortunately, they do not pay you for it, but they give you in the form of credit, such that if you do utilize that electricity, it's then offset from your electricity consumption. The other T and C associated to that is the fact that they have a 12-month banking period. Any electricity not utilized in that banking period is then forfeited.
So basically, you get more free electricity versus cash back for that, which is not really a bad thing. It's just hopefully.
Which is not a bad thing, exactly. It's not a bad thing, or else that excess energy would just have been lost.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions for Vishay? I see Maria's asking, do we contact ABSA and get the name of suppliers, or what is the first step for an individual?
So obviously, we do not associate ourselves with having an approved list of installers, because we take the view that today you could be a startup and tomorrow you could be a leading installer out there in the country. So we do not make recommendations as to our clients should utilize, but prefer that from a process perspective that they go out, reach out to installers, I can share a list of accredited installers which have the PV Green Card accreditation, or what we call a PQRS accreditation, which is known in our country for accredited solar installers, that I can share a link to, which you can access, and then in your area, it will bring up those accredited installers that you can basically consult for a solution. But where we come in is, if you have that proposal, we come in from a technical advisory perspective on those criteria that I've mentioned to you to advise you whether the solution will work for you. And I'm happy to share my details on the chat as well.
Okay, because Maria is asking for information there. And then Carl, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Tell me, we don't have a bond on our home, and our franchises all run home offices, so the business is registered at home. Would you guys be able to finance the home installation or the office installation or business installation then?
So in that case, obviously it's a special case because the client's businesses are at home. So we will take that view in terms of financing the business, given they've got the home offices. And alternatively, if they do not have a bond with APSA, there is other options that we can explore to solution the client. So I'm happy to, if there is those scenarios, we're happy to look into how we can solution. There isn't an impossibility with that.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, and Travis is also quite curious to know who the accredited solar installations are. And then James would like to share something. Just raise your hand if you would like to share or ask a question.
Thanks, Ramani. Vishay, I think maybe, can you maybe elaborate a bit more just on the quality of the, and you talk about accreditation, because obviously you get installers out there and then you get installers. And I've heard a lot of about a lot of horrible stories of people getting the installations done and then it's not actually what they wanted, or the quality of the work wasn't what they wanted. I'm actually going through, I'm going to send you my quote, I'm getting another one tomorrow, because yeah, I've had a couple of guys coming to my house now to look at a solar installation. For me, it's a case of, yes, it makes financial sense, because currently what I'm paying for electricity is just too much for what I pay to Eskom, and the second one is obviously these unplanned outages and so forth. And I think in our area, yeah, it sometimes go up to 10, 12. The other day we had a 27-hour one. I've got a little inverter here that can run the basics for about 10 hours or so, but then from there it becomes a bit of an issue. So maybe just the quality of the installers, and because I know they use different products, and you can use inverters and then it's Toyota quality, and then you can use others and then it's Mercedes quality and so forth. Maybe just elaborate a bit more on that.
Correct. So when it comes to equipment as such, like I've mentioned, you know, we normally associate ourselves to financing projects that have tier 1 modules. And tier 1 modules, and what does that mean? So it is manufacturers that have been out there for many years. They're reputable manufacturers, and they have the necessary performance warranties. Because to your point, you know, we've seen some nasty installations. We've even seen the case where installers, after 6 months of installing these projects, are no longer available for support. So hence, we take a view from a panel perspective. It's tier 1 module, and common brand names are like Canadian Solar, Trina, or JA Solar. And I can provide a list of those. It's readily available. When it comes to inverters, as a country, we have a standard which is called the NRS 097, and that's to support grid stability. And the Western Cape is very progressive in terms of making that approved list of inverters available on the web. And we follow that list of NRS 097 approved. And coming back, just to share a side note, you know, I had a client looking at financing a system, and not to say anything bad, but he wanted to go to the local China Mart to buy his panels. And obviously those comes with risks from a warranty perspective, and especially when it comes to ensuring your system is legal, because that goes against regulation. Apart from that is when we talk about installers, so there's the accreditation, like we know, which is not, it's a voluntary one, which is SAPIA, the PV Green Card accreditation, which tries to bring in some standardization in the market. And it ensures that those individuals that do have the accreditation have been through the necessary training, as well as done the necessary practicals to ensure that the installations are done in accordance to standards. There's also the PQRS training that, you know, you can always ask your installers to provide some kind of accreditation. Apart from that is the electricians that are doing the installation to provide you with it. You know, there's a registration number that they have as part of being an electrician, and what we make precedent for these installations, and this is very important, is that every installation must be accompanied by an electrical COC together with a professional engineer sign-off. So the professional engineer is basically an individual that puts his personal indemnity on that document to ensure that the installation is being carried out in accordance with regulation and standards. And what is important there is, from an insurance perspective, if something has perspective or it creates a fire, the insurance will make it as a request to ask for that documentation. So all rounded, you basically secured yourself in terms of ensuring that you've got an installation that has been done in the necessary quality requirements, as well as ensuring that you've got a legal installation in place. So I hope that helps you, James. And I'm looking forward to seeing those quotations. I mean, I'm just a phone call away.
Just maybe, sorry, Ramoni, I just want you, and you touched on the insurance now. So does that become part of your homeowners insurance, or do you need, is it part of your short-term insurance? Is it a separate insurance that you need to take out? Because yeah, it's obviously it's a costly item, and yeah, you need to insure it.
Correct. For homeowners, it becomes as part of your home insurance. For businesses, the same approach as well. It's just that you have to stipulate it so that it's included into your insurance.
Thank you, Vishay. Anyone else has questions for Vishay? I know Nicolene, their business went solar, so it'd be nice to hear from Nicolene what that experience has been like. How's it working? If Nicolene is still around.
Hi, yes. So we use the solar systems on our warehousing. So we barely ever pay electricity. The only downfall to that is that when we do pay electricity, because we have the meters we have to buy, then we pay massive penalties because of that. So sometimes we would then only actually buy electricity once every 6 months and pay between 5,000 to 7,000 Rand as a penalty before we can actually purchase electricity, which I find quite ridiculous, but that's the only downfall. But we've got battery systems as a backup. So even when we have cloudy days for 2 or 3 days, we still have enough electricity. But we are also turning that warehouse into a factory now. So that will also change because of the cold rooms and the machinery that we'll have inside. But it's worth the investment. We also have it at our house. We barely buy electricity here. So it pays off quite quickly. I think we paid off our home within 2 years of what we would have paid Eskom.
Oh, wow. That's quite a...
Yeah. I think that the big thing, Ramri, is in general for the public is people don't understand the numbers and they don't know how to work it out. So if you know that you use, for example, 1,000 Rand electricity a week, and you're paying that much in taxes and in penalties or whatever, or not penalties, but like a fee to Eskom, you need to actually go work that out compared to what it would cost if you have the solar. And unfortunately, solar is a big investment in the beginning, but if you go work it out, they can actually, you know, like you guys can actually work it out as to saying, oh, over in 2 years or in 3 years or in 5 years, you can actually pay it off, and then you have it forever. It's something that people just need to like grasp, and then if they have the funds available, they'll be able to do it.
I think that's where I'm stuck. It's grasping those numbers. It's exactly that.
Yeah, maybe they should
work it
actually,
out.
like, I think they should create like a calculator so that people can put in that I'm currently paying 4,000 a month for my electricity. This is how much I also use, because that's also the thing. My husband has I don't have it in the office now, but we have a little meter that we can move around in the house that actually shows us how much power we use. And it's funny because he's quite adamant looking at it, and then he'll stand in the house and go, all of a sudden we're using stuff, you know, and then it's because you've got the kettle going and the washing machine and you've got something else. And in all respect to everybody, we waste a lot of electricity. If you don't walk with your bucket to go fetch, you know, a kilometer away electricity or water, you won't actually understand it until you see it. But if you see that meter going up and you're like, oh my goodness, we shouldn't boil the kettle with a whole full, you know, container of water, you should only boil the, you know, the cup or whatever. It makes small differences, and that's where the actual savings come in as well.
Wow, thank you for sharing. That was really helpful. Thank you. Vishay, you wanted to add something?
I think, Nicolene, thank you for sharing. And yes, it does make business sense for installing these systems. I'm glad that you mentioned a very important point, is if you do not measure it, you cannot control it. And it gives you an insight and awareness in terms of what you utilize and ways of how you can use it more efficiently. I think a very important point is you mentioned the calculator. So we will be launching in April a calculator for our home loans clients where they can put in their utility account and it'll tell them what size of system that will work for them and give them an estimated cost in terms of what they can expect. On the business side, it's a bit more technical, but we have the tools in-house and we're happy to engage with clients to take them through those numbers. Generally, we see a payback for commercial and industrial clients around 4.5 to 5 years. And like you've mentioned, you know, these systems can generate in excess of 20 years. So you've got close to 15 to 20 years of free electricity. A very important point that I think I've missed out in terms of when I was explaining is that businesses can benefit from the tax rebate that's available. It used to be 28% of the cost of the installation. However, it's now, I think as of April, it's going to drop by a percentage, which is going to be 27%. So 27% tax rebate of the cost of the installation is quite a good benefit for clients that are considering this. Apart from the fact that you can claim the VAT back of this equipment as well, or assets, which is close to 42% by just installing the system. Okay, excellent.
It's very, very good to know, because what I've also noticed is, you know, because I've got rental property and I've got tenants. And so what I've noticed is that you can only, you know, you can't charge more rent, you know, especially when you've got inclusive. So it kind of becomes like you kind of see your costs, your you know, it does impact your profits and bottom margins. So yeah, very much so.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something. If Vishay, if they have maybe connections with Eskom, I know in other countries, when it comes to solar panels, in some of our other places that we own, you actually get a rebate. The government buys the electricity from you, which is something that's not happening in South Africa. And this will actually force people to get solar, because then they can, and, you know, if your grid is full, you're giving back to the grid, which is something South Africa needs so badly. But for some reason, they're not offering people that facility. And I think if that could be something that they eventually bring in, more and more people will be willing to get solar for their home or their business, because you're generating electricity all the time. Like on a summer's day, by lunchtime, our grid is full, like our batteries are full, everything's full to keep us alive. I want to say, like, literally for another day. So I could be pushing my electricity back into South Africa's grid and helping 2 or 3 other families, but they're not paying us or even giving you that option to do that. And I think that's something that we really need to get some friends in the right places to assist us with that.
100%.
Ennis, you had a question?
Thanks for everything so far. Just a quick question in terms of planning your numbers. My understanding is that the base load in the grid needs to be maintained. So if you're sort of making a financial decision to invest in solar or green technology to pay it back into the grid, does Vishay know anything about the sort of sustainability of the grid? Is that something you can sort of bank on?
So I'm just trying to understand the question as well. Obviously, as a country, we have a base load, right, which is generated from predominantly fossil fuels such as coal, and then we've got nuclear, which supports our base load as a country. You know, we've also, when you look at consumption such as peak periods, and peak periods in terms of, you know, the morning peak and the afternoon peak. However, there's always that constant, you know, base load. But when solar generates, and if you had to plug that and mirror it in terms of how electricity is used as a country and when electricity is generated, especially if you look at household consumption and those trends, it's outside of those peak periods. But where it can come in at a very good, in terms of feeding back, is to assist in terms of bringing in, from eliminating those peak periods that we have in terms of storage. And that's where the country is looking at. And you would see that as part of the integrated resource plan, there's a lot of storage that has been brought into it, which is now looking at innovative ways of utilizing that excess energy and then compensating individuals accordingly as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enes, did that answer your question? Is everybody happy?
Perfect.
All right. Is there any more questions for Vishay? I know some comments have also come through in terms of people wanting to connect with each other. How do we make this work? We can also do breakout rooms for those who want to stay behind afterwards. Anything else anybody wants to final thoughts before we close the meeting, and anybody who wishes to stay behind to connect are more than welcome to do so. Dani says thank you, first time visitor, and will join again in the future. Thank you. Okay, everyone, don't be so quiet. We can do breakout rooms, go home, do whatever you want. Thank you so much for joining us today. I forgot to note the next event date. Let me just have a look quickly. I forgot all about it. It will be in May. It's normally the first or second week in May, 7th of, no, sorry, I've got it wrong. Let's see, where are we? It will be the 12th of May will be the next event. So put that in your diary. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And yes, please let us know, Vishay, if you can send me the information, I can then also just add it in a in an emailer afterwards. So those who'd like to stay behind, if anyone would like to join breakout rooms, I'm going to assign breakout rooms automatically. You can tell what's important to you as a customer, or talk about load shedding, or just share information you'd like to share with everybody. All right. And yeah, connect with each other on LinkedIn. It's a great place to connect with people. That's also a good way to find people. Ezekiel would like to connect with a few people. So here we go. All right, let's see. 4 to 5. Okay. All right, has everybody gone into breakout rooms?
Hi, Romania. Unfortunately, I have to fall off.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, have we joined rooms? Are we in a room together? Is that what's happened? I'm not very good and very used to breakout rooms, so. Thank you, James, for today.
Thanks, Romania. I've just posted there. I've got to go, but thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. The others are just networking. They can.
Cool.
You didn't join, James? I can't hear you.